Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 105 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Let's get started. We start in Imogen's mind. She is speaking to her mother. Liliana asks if Imogen is okay, and Imogen says yes. Liliana says that she just wants to talk quickly, and she knows that Imogen doesn't have much time. She says that Ludinus has grown impatient after coming back, and he has been sending Ruidusborn to places that even she doesn't know about. But he sent one of his simulacrums to make a deal with the Unseelie Court alongside Sora Lord Zethuda, and that meeting is going to happen within the next few days. It's going to take place at a place called the Shrine of the Gilded Gifts in the Amethyst Gutch Sierras. Glutch Sierras. I'm just going to make sure I said that right. Ludinus says that the Unseelie have been very absent partners since the destruction of their Malleus Key all that time ago. Liliana hopes that this information is very helpful for Imogen. Imogen asks if the party going there will leave Liliana as a suspect for the information being leaked out. Liliana says that he suspects everyone but isn't aware of their connection being Imogen's and Liliana's. Imogen asks where the Weave Mind is currently, and Liliana says that they actually just got back from Exandria after terraforming the area around the key. Imogen asks for any useful information about Ludinus, just in case they can use that against him. Liliana says that she'll see what she can find, and she also says that they haven't quite reached the hollowed cage quite yet. But as they get closer to it, they all feel the pull just a little bit more. Liliana says that she doesn't have much time, and that Ludinus wants her to channel a memory through a nexus point in the ley lines. Ludinus thinks her exalted power at one of the nexus points will be enough to share the memory to everyone. Imogen says to do what she must do to keep his trust. Liliana says that she doesn't want to hurt Imogen and asks what she should do. Imogen says that if she can get away and not do it, that's good. But if he is just going to use someone else to do it instead, she should stay there and do it just to keep herself safe. Liliana says okay and that she has to go. Imogen tells her mother that she loves her, and Liliana says it back, and the vision comes to an end. Imogen immediately tells the others and questions her decision on what she told her mother to do. Fern thinks that what she said was a good idea, and Chetney wonders if that will put Liliana at risk to ask any more questions up there about this memory and sharing it. Fern rolls a history check and gets a 23. She is familiar with the Amethyst Gulch. She's heard quite a few stories of a lucid purple mountain range with wooded valleys that used to be a very vibrant Seelie community called, and I'm going to say this wrong, Pravenir? I think it was Pravenir, but I'm saying it wrong for sure. Which means kaleidoscopic tapestry in Elvish. Chetney knows that because he speaks Elvish. But there was a mass poisoning, and the community had abandoned that place, and it is now believed to be haunted by those who died there. It's not far from the Sable Cast grounds, which is where the first Malleus Key was destroyed in the Fey Realm by the Bell's Hells. Imogen asks if they should trust the information, and the party asks if she trusts her mom. Imogen does, and the party asks if this is the first time that Liliana has reached out to give information since they left the moon. Imogen says yes. The party realizes that this means Ludinus needs help from the Unseelie to sort of bolster his army. Fern wonders if they can turn the Unseelie to their side. Imogen thinks that they can stop them from even getting to the meeting point, them being Sora Lord Zethuda and the Simulacrum. Ashen wonders what the Unseelie would want in order to switch sides. Lana notes that the relationship between Ludinus and the Unseelie is very weak, according to Ira. Ashen wonders what Ira is up to at the moment. Imogen says that she can send a message to him. The party asks how much time they have before that meeting, and Imogen says that it's going to happen within the next few days. Chetney believes that they could use this to prove their worth at the meeting in the Platinum Sanctuary. Ashen says that they could tell Ira about it, and he hates the Sora Lord, so they could let him deal with it. Dorian asks if they are now allies with Ira, as the last time he saw them, they were fighting underneath a tower. The party say that they're okay with him right now, and they're not quite sure where they stand. Chetney thinks that they could tell the Platinum Sanctuary about the channeling at the Nexus points, and so they could send someone to stop Liliana themselves. The party wonder which Nexus point is going to be used. Laudna thinks it could be the one above the Bloody Bridge, but there are way too many Nexuses around to know for sure. Laudna wonders if Imogen could, disrupt the transmission that Liliana puts out if she's also at the Nexus point. Lana asks if the Unseelie know knows that Ludinus has been absorbing fey creatures over the years and thinks maybe that could be enough information to turn them. The party now have a lot to think about. This is all a walk and talk as they head toward the Platinum Sanctuary. They get to the heaven steps and they start to make their way up. They can feel the cold aura coming off from the Judicators that are on post there. They reach the top of the steps and look up and see that the silver dragon that was there last night is no longer there. Orm looks for it, and with a 24 on his perception check, he doesn't see it around. They step into the sanctuary, and everyone who was there last night are back in their spots, and there are even more people than there was before. The crowd starts to settle, but there is about 15 minutes of talking and plotting within the forum for the party to do things. Imogen asks who they should, or what they should share. Chenny says that they should hold on to their secrets until pressed. Breas gives Dorian a bardic inspiration. Lana asks what secrets they're going to hold on to, and the party agree that the back door is something they need to hold on to, the information that they got from Imogen's mother, and any information on Imogen's mother in general. Dorian thinks not sharing how they have all these things will look suspicious, and Chetney says that they don't want to risk their source. Imogen then casts telepathic bond on the entire party, and they can now speak within their minds. Orm looks for anyone that they didn't see around the night before and rolls a 25 in perception. He doesn't see anyone new that sort of sets themselves off. He makes a history check and rolls a natural 20 and gets a whisper. Chenny takes on the monocle of True Essence and casts See Invisibility. Breas takes Fern aside and begins to apologize for flirting with her and says that she is spoken for and that was dishonorable of him. Fern actually shuts this down and says that it's not dishonorable for her to flirt. She can do what she wants, and she hasn't made any decisions yet. She doesn't want to put all of her eggs in one basket. Breas asks if Ashton knows this, and Fern says that Ashton knows that she is a free bird. Breas says that he believes in being upfront in things like these, and Fern says that she doesn't know what she wants quite yet, but thinks Ashton is a fantastic person, but doesn't want to be tied down quite yet. Fern asks what Breas' deal is he with someone? And Breas asks if she's asking for someone else or for her. Fern says that she's just curious, and Breas says that he's obviously looking, as he's flirting with literally everybody in the party. But he says that Fern checks a lot of boxes. Fern says that Breas should talk to Ashton about all of this, and at this moment the crowd starts to settle in for the meeting. But just before we can get fully into the meeting, Orm tells Dorian to step aside to one of the entrances, and they both head over towards a corner. Orm asks if Dorian has seen that man before and points to him in the crowd. But as Dorian sort of focuses on him, the man vanishes into the crowd. Orm says that he kind of looked like Dorian quite a lot, just a little bit older. Dorian asks for specific markings, and Orm says that he was just older and finely dressed in regal silks, sort of similar to his. Orm says that he looked a lot like him, yet again, and Dorian thinks that that's interesting. He says that Cyrus always favored their mom, but Dorian always favored his father. Orm tells him to keep his eyes peeled, as maybe he can see him, and Dorian says that it can't be him. They then return to the group, and Chetney, with his See Invisibility, sees on a bunch of half pillars in the room, there are 6 12-foot massive golems watching over the chamber, and they're all invisible. He then looks up to the ceiling and sees that it's a little distorted up there, as there is a silver dragon sitting invisible on the ceiling, sort of hanging from the ceiling. Chenny thinks this place is very safe, and he informs the others. They all take their place in the forum, and the other key figures do as well. Vord thanks everyone for coming and gathering here, and another man steps forward. He has dark skin, black hair, and tattoos on his body. He says the crisis orbs were lit, and that's why he came to witness. This man is Karkonos, flame speaker of Pyra, and is a member of the Fire Ashari, who Robbie actually voiced in the animated series for Vox Machina, which is really cool. The High Hierophant, Ophira, steps forward. She says that the effects of the solstice still affect the people around, and the Vanguard are still moving about. Ludinus vanished, and this fortress was built around the Malleus Key. The people of Exandria need to regain their footing and fight back. She asks for those who have been working to move forward to speak. Vex, Allura, Grun, and the Bright Queen all stand and move towards 4 different corners within the forum. Vex says that her and her allies are people of action, which is what they need right now. Grun says that they know the dangers that they all face and trust is important. The city has been kept safe by some of the people present, and he puts the faith in the Dawn Marshals behind them. Allura says that there are 3 main positions held by the enemy: the fortress and the arrival of the Sunder King at the Malleus Key, which might be the spearhead of the invasion. The next major point is not totally understood, which is the Weavemind, who are a deeply set allies with the Ruby Vanguard, and lastly, Ludinus and his Ruidusborn, who look to set free a God Eater. To attack one of these would give the others time to prepare and succeed in their defenses. They should attack all at once, and she thinks that they have the means to do so. Vex steps forward into the middle. As she does so, Vord says, and I'm going to butcher the fuck out of this name, Athudashionis, and the silver dragon on the ceiling becomes visible and their eyes flash, and the chamber is washed over by a wave of energy, golden energy. And it's a very similar feeling to what the party felt last night while playing their game, as a wave of truth, or zone of truth, is sort of hitting the entire room right now. The party make charisma saves. Ashen rolls a 7 and fails. Orm rolls a 6 and fails. Imogen rolls an 18 and fails. Fern rolls a 19 and fails. Breus rolls a 20 and saves. Dorian rolls a natural 20 and saves. Laudna rolls a 28 and saves, and Chetney rolls a 12. Breus makes a religion check to see if he knows the dragon, and he rolls a 22. He does know that this dragon is an ancient dragon. It's an ancient silver dragon that has been long charged with the protection of the Platinum Sanctuary. There are some people in the room who become fearful at the sight of this dragon, but others seem to have already known it was there. Vex says that they propose the first part of the plan is to scope out the new Malleus Keep and use many heroes from across Exandria who have gathered here who can be spared from defending their posts. The intent is to deliver the legends known as Vox Machina to the Malleus Key. The crowd whispers and chuckles a little bit, and Vex yells out that they once stopped a god and saved this very city, they can stop this tower. The crowd sort of hushes at that moment. Allura then steps forward and says that the next is to deal with the Weavemind. She says that they have a way to get to Ruidus without using the Malleus Key. They plan to send a strike team up with the guidance of Everoa to sort of use to sort of rush the sanctum of the Weavemind. She offers a trustworthy crew who has beaten beings of a similar nature in the shadows of history. They've helped in dealing with Ludinus in the past as well. She recommends that the Mighty Nine of Wildmount, with their experience, skills, and resilience to the enemy's strength, make a standout choice for this strike team. A man yells out that they've never heard of such a team before. Others start to say the same thing, and the Bright Queen steps forward into the center of the chamber. She slams her staff down, and the beacon on it begins to glow, a bright light. She says that she knows them and has worked with them in the past. And she lends her experience to back up Allura's words, and the Kryn dynasty second their recommendation. She implores the rest to do the same. She then steps back. Keyleth then steps forward and says that they need someone with experience of the land of Ruidus and the plans of the Ruby Vanguard to strike at him. The group has agreed on a team to strike him. They fought him in the past and his allies many times, and they also have allies on Ruidus. She recommends the Bell's Hells for the final mission to attack the Hollowed Cage. Keyleth then looks to them and she steps back. The party step forward, and the room is very still and every eye looks down on the party. Orm says that time is short, just like him. They've been to Ruidus and have worked with the people within it. They mustn't delay, and it would be an honor for them to serve this chamber. A man that they don't recognize has stepped forward, and he says that they know of the legends and ask what they, the current party, bring to the table in surviving being on the moon. The Holy Curator steps forward and asks what assurances they have that they are actually on their side. Imogen says that Ludinus has caused them great harm to everyone in the party. Some close to them have been lost due to him, frankly. They just kind of hate him and would love to bring him down. Persuasion check of 25. The first figure steps down, but the holy curator still stands and asks if they have any holy followers among them, because why would they entrust this to anyone else? Boreas steps forward and claims that he follows the Platinum Dragon, and he has been with the party for many months. But it's not just the hatred of Ludinus that binds them together, but their individual strengths that set them apart. They have a power of a Titan, the knowledge of Ruidus born, ones who are dedicated to family, one who has control over the dead, and a guy who makes chairs. Chetney bows at this. He loves that idea. Aurum, he also says that the gods have smiled upon them. Aurum shows off his new sword and says that the Wild Mother has blessed them and that the gods are watching. As he says this, the eyes on his blade, the gem eyes, begin to glow, illuminating the party. Boreas rolls a 16 on the persuasion or deception. It's the same number, so we don't know. The people seem to be on board, but Vord steps forward and asks which of the great saints of the Platinum Dragon does he represent. Boreas makes a religion check of 22, and he knows a great number of them. Boreas says that he follows the fallen saint Graham, the one who fell from the path and was cast away until the end of his life, where he saw his mistake and returned to help those who were looking for guidance, who were too close to darkness. The High Bearer steps down from their seat and inspects Boreas. Boreas has never met the High Bearer, but knows they are the pinnacle of worship of the Platinum Dragon. Vord asks if he seeks to represent the Platinum Dragon in the mission to carry joy and justice as a weapon and shield to protect them and us. Vord places her hand on Boreas' chest, and Boreas says, "Till my dying day, deception check 20. Vord's eyes narrow at Boreas, and they remove their hand, and then step back to their seat. Imogen opens her mind up as the High Bearer is near them, and sees the surface thoughts that there is a very steel-willed mind here, but it's difficult to place, but there is a seed of mistrust and worry, and the intent to follow up on this conversation once everything here is done. The High Bearer then sits back down. The Hierophant says that they see that the Wild Mother is with them and that the Platinum Dragon is as well, but they are worried about Laudna and if she will stay on the righteous path with her dark powers. Laudna says that death is still a part of life, but necromancy is still a gift from the gods, both the Archheart and the Matron. They have found that it is beneficial to have a little bit of darkness on their side. Persuasion check of a natural 20. 3 figures stand within the crowd as she says this. They are all in black veils, and one steps forward and says that they hear her words and they know it's true. Light casts a shadow. They work in tandem, or at least they should. It's about balance, and there is much light in this group, and they are comforted that shadow walks with them. The High Bearer looks over the party and asks, "What about the Titan power?" and wants them to elaborate on what that means. They don't want to be sending any ancient enemies to fight on their behalf. Ashton and Fern step forward. Ashton says that they are talking about him and her, and this is a bad time to be talking ancient enemies, and he apologizes for not serving a god, but the fact that they have to question that is a problem for him. They are all in this together. He serves the weak and the forgotten. He reveres the dirt beneath their feet, and if that's not enough, he'll fight on his own because the alternative sounds awful. Fern says that she also has a shard of a Titan in her, and she doesn't follow a god, but thinks that they all deserve to live, even the bad ones, and thinks that they should pick them as the group as they've already been to the moon. Keyleth looks to them and basically gestures for them to transform into their elemental forms. Ashton rages and then gets his time rage and then takes his Titan form and casts Acceleration Wave on the 10 most interesting people within the room. Fern takes her form as well as a fire circles her and sets her aflame. The crowd is affected by this wave from Ashton. They both make persuasion checks. A 32 from Fern and a 26 from Ashton, as he was allowed to use his strength because of the strength of character he was showing. The crowd takes in what they see, and the Silver Dragon smiles at them, and he says, "Quite impressive." Another figure, Gilithid of the Ember Vigil asks, what about the chairmaker and the well-dressed lad? What do they add to the crew? Dorian is flustered by everything that's happening right now, and he says that he isn't sure what he has to offer, but he knows that the rest of the group has stuff to offer. He says, we are you in the room. We couldn't decide yesterday either, and that doesn't mean that they won't make the right choice when it needs to happen. They are all from different places and different backgrounds, and they are simply people set to a task, and that task will ask them of one moment of clarity and morality. He doesn't think alone that they could do it, but together they can. So if they trust this chamber, they should trust the rest of them. Flame Speaker, Kurokonos, I'm going to say the name wrong every time, says that was a masterful deflection of the question and wants to know what is within Dorian's heart. What does he bring to the table? Dorian has had this tune in his head that he couldn't quite place until that question was asked. He cast a spell by accident, and it summoned Greater Steed, and a great equine dragon the size of a draft horse appears. He sees it and remembers the story of the legendary mount from their family that their mother used to tell them, and he remembers the sound of his haunted dreams. Caloris lands next to him, which is the dragon. He says that he may not look like much, but they have power, and they are capable, and his heart wants to make a difference. Persuasion check of 29. Kurokonos, I'm going to say that name wrong every time, I swear to God, smiles and sits back down. A voice asks if the chairman has a dragon too, and Chetney says that it's chairmaker and more master craftsman. He says that they ask what he brings, and he simply says 400. He's been around for centuries. He remembers Zan Taldore, Irvine the Rhyme Lord, and has seen the horrors of this land and has seen the people rise up and rebuild. But Ludinus plans on releasing something much more powerful, and it may not just stop at eating the Pantheon. He brings wisdom and an unrelenting courage. He fears nothing, and he transforms into his werewolf state. He also adds all the information that they've already gotten from every source they have now has come from them. They have succeeded once for them already. Let them succeed for them once more. Persuasion check of 12. The party step back and Keelah smiles and the room is quiet. Keelah steps forward and says, unless someone else has anything more to add or question, these are the greatest hopes. These are the brightest hopes bound to the memory of a fallen hero or two. She asks for them to give the Bell's Hells their trust and faith. Lady Fern Calloway, Faye, Axiom of the Ancient Flame. Was it Psychon? My phone is messed up. I think it was Psychon. Faye Psychon of the Ancient Flame. Lana, Veil Mistress of the Shadow Tree. Ashen, the Reforged. Hammer of Paradox. Chetney Pokapy, High Hunter, and Lupine Paragon. Dorian Storm, Master of Muse and Son of the Wind. Imogen Tumult, Exalted Hope of the Red Storm, and Orm of the Arashari, Savior Blade of the Tempest, and lastly Breas Doomseed, Nascent Might of the Platinum's Call. The people nod and whisper, and side conversations begin to break out. The higher-ups look over the party and nod as well. The High Bearer Vord stands. She says that there are many plans and not much time. They may change a few things about it, but she feels confident in this, as it is the best option they have right now. They ask if anyone challenges this plot and the champions of their cause. I shoot around the room, looking for each other, seeing if anyone's going to say anything, and Vord says very well. She looks down to the party and says, for now they are the greatest hope. Carry that weight, hope, and strength with them. They'll put out the word, and armies will be set in a week to come. They will set the stage for the assault on the moon of Ill Omen, and to end this once and for all. The room begins to clap, and the energy is unified for the first time. There isn't a strong feeling of doubt in the room at the moment. Exandria has come together. They've come together behind legends, they've come together behind history, and they've come together behind the Bell's Hells. The party are flooded with questions and people shaking their hands. Um, a not young gnome, goes up to Chetney and says that they've been waiting for this moment for a long time. As people are shaking Dorian's hand, he hears from behind someone say, Bronte. Dorian says, hello, father, and turns to meet his father's gaze. Zeru Wyverwind, salt and pepper long black hair, his regal clothes much like Dorian's, his sad eyes meet Dorian's. For the first time in a long time, Dorian sees his father before him. His father says that he looks well, and Dorian says he does too. His father didn't expect to see Dorian here to be taking part of this task. Dorian says that he left home to avoid his responsibilities, and he found much greater ones. His father says that word of Cyrus's passing has reached them and wanted to make sure that Dorian was aware of it. Dorian says that there is still hope, but very little. Dorian asks if his mom is here, and his father says that she is still with the Squall. He got an invitation from the Arashari as they have a history together. His father looks him over to see whereabout he is in his journey. His eyes begin to water and he hugs Dorian. Dorian locks up at first, but eventually embraces his father. His father says that he's been lost to the rumors of the world for a while and they've been worried. Dorian asks if things are managed at home, and his father says yes, but people are also worried about everything. His father says that this is a dangerous task and there's no shame in going home and the Squall could use a returning son. Dorian says no. He can do this with his friends. He asks if his father can believe in him for this. There's no answer. Dorian asks why he pauses. The people with him didn't pause. It was always him growing up, but he's gone, and he's sorry for that. But Dorian can help others now. All he needs is to hear it once. Does his father believe in him? Can he do this? His father says that it's not a question. He doesn't lack faith. He just doesn't want to lose another son, and that's why he hesitates, because he's scared. Because he can't stop him, and he needs Dorian to promise that he will return. Dorian promises that he will return and come home. His father says good, and Dorian shakes his hand. His father says if he must make the journey to stay safe and to lean on others as much as possible. Dorian starts to leave, but his father stops him and takes off his blade from his belt. And he says that it is a symbol of their family and it protects their family and will continue to do so, and it will protect many more. He receives Gamblecleft, the Vortex Blade. He thanks him for it, and then he takes off the Gambler's Blade and then gives it to his father. He doesn't want to leave his father unarmed. His father smiles at him. There is pride in his eyes for his son, and he begins to walk off. Fern asks how Dorian is doing, and Dorian says that for the first time in a while, quite well. We then head back over to Chetney. The young gnome says that he doesn't know how to say it, and he didn't think that he'd ever have the chance. But he is a big fan of his work, and all of his furniture and all of his interior is basically Chetney's works. His toys and collections are all from Chetney. Chetney hugs him and asks for his name, and the man says that he is Scale Bearer Wayland. He is an aide here at the Platinum Sanctuary. He never thought that he'd see Chetney here. Wayland would love to show Chetney his place. It's basically a museum in his honor. Chetney asks if he can take some time away to go look, and the party aren't quite sure. Wayland says that they must not be aware of the legend that they walk with. There are dozens of people just like Wayland all over Exandria, and they send letters between each other and updates as much as they can. They are sea poppers. Wayland asks if they could get a painting of the two of them together, and Chetney says that he should speak to his assistant Imogen. At this point, they've stepped outside of the zone of truth. They're walking and talking again. She says that she'll send them a message when they're coming by, and at this moment, Vord steps up to the party. She says that she doesn't know about Breas. Breas wears the skin of their people. She asks how will they know if he won't burn their trust down. Breas says the mistrust is fair and that he admits to lying a little bit. He says that he was an acolyte, but he brought shame to his post and was sent away. He tells her that he was a part of the Platinum House in Zadash, and he takes out an old symbol from the Platinum Dragon. He says that the overseer there broke it and sent him out as he was unworthy of wearing it. In the hopes of being able to return one day, he kept it so he could glue it back together and earn the trust of the Platinum Sanctuary once more. The High Bearer looks through Breus, eyes darting right through. A voice beside them says that there are few things as wonderful in this world as a chance at redemption. Pike says, "Trust me, I would know." Vord looks down and Pike smiles. She says, "Some of the highest leaders of the temples here have fallen and were given a second chance." Breus rolls a 32 persuasion check. Vord says there's too much at stake, and her eyes look down at the symbol on his chest. Breus can tell parts of his persona have been seen through at this moment. Vord smiles and says that the path of redemption is a powerful symbol of faith for those who need to find their way to the light. If he is to represent the Platinum Dragon, he needs to wear armor that truly bears their symbol, and she wipes the paint off his chest. Two scale bearers approach at this moment with a platinum chest. It opens up, and there is a light that comes out of it. It is a silver plate mail armor. Vord says that this is Truth Bearer, the armor of the kindest and most noble warrior of the Platinum Dragon, Uthar Vendrock. Religion check 22 from Breus. Breus does know who they are. They were a hero for those without light, and they carved a legacy in the annals of Exandrian history through their deeds and heroism. When they passed, their armor was kept here as a symbol of hope. Vort says it may protect you on your path of redemption. The scale bearers remove Breus' armor and place the new one on him. His eyes are locked with Vord's. Vord said that it's a fine fit and to do them proud. Vord then walks away. Fern says that he might turn out to be much like his favorite saint, and Breus says that he hasn't planned on it, but maybe it's a sign. Persuasion check or deception from Breus as Imogen insight checks him. It doesn't matter what Imogen's insight check was, though, because it was a natural 20 and her wisdom is nowhere near that high. So, Breus wins out here. Seems to be telling the truth. Chetney gives Waylon a wooden coin that says C-pop on it. Lana says that he should go and see Waylon's place, and Lana says that she actually wants to see it. Chetney says if they insist, and Lana asks if they can all go. Waylon says that he has some duties to take care of and needs to wait to hear from Chetney's assistant. He then runs off to deal with his own duties. Meanwhile, Orym follows Dorian's father outside. He blocks him, and Orym wants to talk. Zaru says that he must be with the Arashari based on his attire, and he saw him during the whole thing. Orym says that he is sorry for the loss of his son and tells him of the heart and valor that both of his sons have displayed in recent time. He says that he should be proud of them both. Zaru appreciates that. Orym says that he would tell him that he'll look after Dorian, but as Dorian just recently saved him, it's more like the other way around. Zaru says that maybe he can return the favor this time. Orym says that he, being Dorian, has made an impressive verse on the pages of history already, and if he has anything to do with it, Dorian will pen more. Zaru says that he looks forward to reading about them, and that he hopes that one day he gets to know more about the rest of the party as well. Orym wishes him well and safe travels, and then he heads back towards the rest of the party. Ashton, still in his elemental form, bumps into Dorian and says that he owes him an apology. As when they met, he thought that he was a bit of a soft, spoiled clown. But when he came back, he could see that the stone in his chest was getting hard. But he wants him to stay soft as they have lost their softness in this group. Ashton says that he's glad Dorian is here, and Dorian calls him a softie and thanks him. Ashton says that he's been trying to listen to people more and has been trying to change as he knows who he wasn't working. He likes having good people around, and then he walks away as he thinks this is a soft conversation. Keyleth walks up to Imogen. She says that Imogen carries a particular burden in all of this and asks how she is doing. Imogen says that she'll be glad to be rid of Ludinus soon. Imogen says her mother helped them out and she almost came back with them, but she told her to stay. She struggles with that. She didn't trust her at the time, but now that they've spoken and she gave more information, she kind of feels bad about it. She tells Keyleth of of Ludinus's plan to meet with the Unseelie and believes that she put herself at great risk, she being Liliana, and even greater risk if she doesn't share the vision to the people. Imogen wants to get her out, and Keyleth asks if she trusts her mother. Imogen says yes, but the closer they get to Predathos, the harder it'll be to help her out. Imogen is a little worried about getting too close as well, but she knows the party will help get her back. Keyleth says to hold on to that. Imogen asks if Keyleth trusts her, and Keyleth says that Orym trusts her and she trusts Orym. And Keyleth sees a little bit of herself within Imogen, having a lot of weight on her shoulders at such a young age. Keyleth says that she can ask someone to investigate the Unseelie court. She has to convince her friends to get back into the whole fray of fighting. Keyleth says if there's anything that they need, they just need to ask her before she leaves. Imogen says that Ashen and Fern are actually going to need some help real soon because they are going to have some exhaustion points. Imogen tells Keyleth good luck, and Keyleth then runs and leaps off the steps, going down towards the rest of the city of Vasselheim. But she turns into a hawk and flies off. She learned from the goldfish incident, thank God. The party now have a week of time to do things. Imogen asks if they want to go to the Unseelie court, and the party definitely want to. Chenny asks if they should scry on Liliana to see what nexus point she'll be at, and Imogen says that they could dreamwalk and she can ask her mother straight up. Ashen thinks that they should call out to Ira. Laudna thinks that that's a good idea as well. Orym thinks that they should stop at Nanamori's place first if they're going to the Fey Realm, as she can help them move about. Imogen thinks that they should set up watch points at all the nexus points, but that's going to be hard as they don't know how many there are. Ashen asks if Orym saw anyone react to Keyleth saying that they had another way onto Ruidus. They sort of do a backtrack insight check here with a 19, and Orym didn't see anything that stood out. Dorian asks what they're going to be doing in the Fey Realm and what that gives them. Imogen thinks that the whole point of Ludinus going to the Fey Realm is to reinforce his armies at the Malleus Keep, so just stopping the reinforcements is a good thing. Chetney heads back inside to talk to the Bright Queen, who is still in the forum. He does see that she's in discussion with some people, and he goes up to one of the guards. He asks if he can have an audience with the Bright Queen, and he gets a persuasion check of 19. The guards whisper to her. Chetney has to wait for a little bit before she eventually turns to him. He asks if there is anything that she could leave for them, similar to her staff. She says what he asked for is not impossible, and says that their task is a very difficult one. She kneels before him and holds out her staff. As he goes to take it, she pulls back and says, "Of course not." She respects his request and his boldness. She appreciates the laugh that she just gave him and her guards. He thanks her for speaking on their behalf. She then leans down to him and says that he travels with one who is a rift of many contradictions, the one that they call Ashton. They are interested in what Ashton is and what he is capable of. If he can give them any information on him, or even just straight up give them a way to control him, there will be many rewards for Chetney. He says he'll think about it. She heads back to her regular talks, and Chetney hightails her the fuck out of there. He doesn't share any of what he just talked about. They ask if she would give them any boons, and he says that she offered the staff, but he had to turn it down because, no, bitch, I can't take that. Ashton feels he must apologize to the Bright Queen for some of the stuff that he said to her earlier. Fern thinks that he should, and he kisses her, as he's not in pain right now and wants this to be a good moment. She accepts and actually burns him a little bit because she's still on fire. Ashton heads to the Bright Queen. He sees that she sees him and actually stops her conversation. He apologizes as he feels he threw her off before with the things that he said. He's willing to listen and to know himself better and tell her all he can about the thing that's inside his head. She tells him to return to them safely then so that they can have this conversation in a bit more private of a location. He asks for advice. She says to look inward and to find the smallest bead of light. He must hold on to it and then let it bloom. She doesn't know what he holds either, but there's familiar power within him, and it's interesting. She's not sure if it can be controlled, but he might be able to break the fundamental powers of the universe one day. If they don't break him first, She tells him to find the light and hold on to it and imagine. Ashton asks about her relationship to the art chart, and she says that there isn't one. He's trying to formulate his opinions on things that he doesn't fully understand. She says that it's a little bit concerning that one of the heroes that they're sending to save the world is now just beginning a journey of self-discovery. He says that she sounds old, and he would be right. She doesn't partake in any of these faiths. She follows something much older, and maybe he'll see it one day. She walks off with her guards, leaving the people she was talking to behind to chase after her. She leaves and sees Chetney on the way out and nods to him. Imogen sees Waylon and tells her that he is done with his duties and can show off his place now. He asks Imogen if Chetney is good to go. Imogen tells Chetney that Waylon is ready, and Chetney says that Waylon can show them the way to his house. Waylon says that it would be his honor to do so. Insight check from Fern as she's trying to see if this guy is full of shit or not. She rolls a 29 and gets a whisper. Waylon says that he is 95 years old and has been working at the temple for many years. Fern asks if he's a big fan of the Platinum Dragon, and he says yes, it's his way of life. Orym says that he understands Waylon's love for Chetney's work, as he has some of his own. Waylon asks if Orym is willing to sell, but Orym says that they are slightly used. Waylon says that's okay, we can negotiate the price. Collectors gotta collect, you know. Fern shows off the wolf statue or figurine that Chetney made for her, and Waylon freaks out over it. Chetney is extremely happy with all this, and they all show off their stuff except for Dorian, because Dorian gave their his boat to a street urchin, to which Waylon asks which street urchin. They follow Waylon to his home. It's a nice home at the base of the Heaven Stair, which is the staircase going up to the Platinum Sanctuary. They see a couple of statues of the Platinum Dragon. His hands are shaking as he's holding his keys up to try to open his house. Lana is worried if he is genuinely a fan or not. Fern thinks that he might actually love Chetney. He opens the door and says, "Welcome to the Chateau de Seapop." Inside is a wall-to-wall stained wood working that is, it's like the most most wooden cabin interior ever. There's about 17 chairs. There are tables of all sorts and just all sorts of stuff throughout this house. It is a tiny museum. It fills the whole home, and there is a display room with labels of the pieces saying the year and the place that he bought them, what they think the year that they were made, all sorts of stuff. Imogen asks what made him become a fan, and Waylon says that when he was young, he met a merchant from a far place and had nothing of interest except for one thing. And he goes to an iron safe and uses 2 keys to open it. He has to twist them at the same time. Like the fucking nuclear codes or the nuclear keys. It's kind of wild. He pulls out a tiny wooden egg. Chetney says if you twist it a certain way, it reveals something that's most precious. Waylon says precious at the same time. He twists it and it opens up to show a pearl inside. He says that there's only 4 of these in Exandria. Chetney says that there's actually 5 as he always carries one. Waylon freaks out and writes a note about this. Fern asks if this is actually his home or if it's just a museum. Waylon says yes. That is an answer I would give. Chetney is very impressed by the collection, and Waylon wants to pick his brain a little bit. Chetney says that a master craftsman is nothing without an apprentice every once in a while, and Waylon fucking faints at this. They wake him up. Fern asks if he remembers the merchant, and he says that he doesn't. He only remembers that he bought the egg for 5 gold. They ask how much it's worth now, and he says anywhere between 80 to 150 gold pieces based on people who have asked him to sell it in the past, but he will never sell it. Orym says that Chetney needs to make him a custom piece to sort of give to him. Lana asks if the Sea Poppers have ever had any meetups. He says only once, but it's difficult as they are all over the world. Chetney is very happy to be getting this recognition. Dorian asks if there's any fakes throughout, and Chetney makes a perception check and rolls an 8. It's hard to tell with all the tears in his eyes, and frankly, he just wants it all to be real. Chetney is happy. These things have found their way to Waylon. Waylon is just happy that he is still making works, so he feels that he was wasted under Ultgar. Chetney agrees and says that he took care of that, but Drixlix is another thing entirely. Chetney says that Waylon made this a night to remember. Chetney needs to stay here for the night, and Fern asks if he can sleep here and asks if Chetney made any beds. Chetney says, did he make any beds, and scoffs at the idea and turns to Waylon and asks him to show them. Waylon then takes them into a guest room where there are 9 beds crammed into it. Breas wants to stay here for the night. Waylon has enough beds for them all to stay in, and he would be honored to do so. Lana asks Chetney how much he sold the wooden table that Waylon currently owns, which Waylon spent 800 gold pieces on. Fucking insane. Chetney says that it actually sold under the commission rate, which would make it several silver. Lana finds it awful that he hasn't gotten any of the kickback from it and asks if Chetney is satisfied with this. Chetney says that money is important, but it's not why he does it. He is working on a set of new pieces, his legendary piece of Resistance Sanses. Because, of course, he can't say anything regular. Waylon asks if Chetney can go to PopCon, which is happening in a few weeks, and Dorian says if they save the world, he'll save this place, and he'll save PopCon. Chetney now has a new drive to save the world. He tells him that he'll be at PopCon, and so will the rest of the Bell's Hells. Waylon will make the beds and get food ready, and it will be made for a king. He says that the fate of Exandria is in great hands with those behind Chetney. Lana says that Breas can be the one that makes the painting for Waylon, and Breas says that he will do it as long as he gets a signed piece of work from Chetney, but he doesn't want him to make it out for anything because that way he can sell it later. And that is where the session ends. So there you have it, episode 105 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. This one was kind of a retread of some of the information they went over last time, with a few more facets added here and there. I was a big fan of the party members each sort of having to individually make their case as to why they are the ones they should use to sort of fight Ludinus. The Vox Machina team doesn't really need to make a case. Obviously, they've saved people in the past. Allura Vysoren and the Bright Queen are 2 people who are very high up in the world, and they're able to, their words are enough to just sway people that... I've hit the mic twice now. Their words are enough to sway people that the Mighty Nine are worth using, and frankly, they fucking are. So, there's no issue with these 2 extremely powerful teams being used. The issue comes from the Bell's Hells, and I loved that this entire episode was them pleading their case, and they all rolled extremely well. The fates aligned for them. The only one who didn't roll all that well was Chetney and technically Breas, but Breas had better rolls later. I very much enjoyed this episode. I loved seeing Dorian sort of having to encounter his father, and it actually made Dorian far more relatable to me. The whole idea of wanting your father to see pride in you is very relatable for a lot of men. So for me, and I'm sure it's relatable for other women, but I wouldn't know. But for me, that made Dorian a lot more relatable, and I'm glad we're seeing a lot more from Dorian, because Dorian is a character who's been around. He was there for EXU. He was there for the first 14 episodes of this campaign. So now that he's back, I love seeing more character-rich moments for him. It makes him feel much more a part of the team. And same with Breas. The fact that Breas got a huge chunk of this episode sort of dedicated to his lie, and then sort of telling his old story of how he's connected to the Platinum Dragon, and how technically what he was saying wasn't a lie. So I'm very much I very much liked a lot of the role play of this episode. It was a very good episode. I don't know. I don't really have any negative things to say about it. I think maybe the only negative thing is how long they spent at Waylon's place before they ended the episode, but it was still funny as fuck, so who cares? Anyway, that is today's recap of episode 105 of Campaign 3. I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.